What is the unbilled cost by job report? You've done the work, you've spent the money, but you haven't sent the bill yet. Like, we got to get this thing out. Unbilled costs are not just an invoicing problem. They actually work themselves into a cash emergency. And so we need to talk about how you can get out of that and get on the front side of the cash instead of always being on the back side. By the end of this video, you're going to know what unbilled costs are and also the report to run so you can identify it and get caught up with your invoicing. I was talking to an exteriors contractor and they do windows, doors, siding. So they had a lot of jobs going all at once. They would have 5, 6, 7 different jobs going at the same time. And these were just multi-day jobs, not weeks or months. And so you could see the cycle on them. It was a really interesting conversation, and I'm not looking to make fun of him. It was just super interesting as we got to talking that he was running into cash flow problems. And so we started doing a little bit of digging, and I said, hey man, your terms are 30 days on getting paid for all this stuff. And he goes, well, yeah, that's what the accounting software had when I set it up. I'm like, wait, you just went with the default settings because that's all you knew? He's like, yeah, that's all I knew. And so you might be in that position where you're just kind of going with the default as to what you heard and what you knew. Here's the nice thing about your world is the terms, frankly, are your terms. You can set the terms. If you want payment in 24 hours, if you want payment on time, if you want payment in 2 weeks, if you want payment in 30, 60 days, 45 days, whatever, then you need to start setting those terms and building incentives around those. But what we've got to be aware of is both the underbilling and the overbilling, and it's really in the underbilling where you can get in a lot of trouble. You can get in trouble with the overbilling if you start to use that cash for other things you shouldn't be, but more often than not, you get in trouble for the underbilling because you got a cash flow crisis. And we need to solve that. All right, so on every job you have, you incur expenses. And those expenses, if I were to kind of work up a little acronym for you, those are expenses are what we call the SLME. So that line in the middle is just a line separating this, and it kind of looks like an I, so it turns into the acronym. And so on the left-hand side of the SLME, we have subcontractors and labor. So this is going to be the people side of understanding your cost on any given job. On the right side of the SLME, we have your materials and equipment. This is going to be the non-people side of your job cost. All right? So if we've got two sides, basically, any money that is applied to hiring a sub crew, some sort of sub bid package, whatever you might have, that's going to be on the people side. And then your labor might be more seasonal. Some of you are like, wait, shouldn't these go together? Sometimes they do. You can just look at it. So anytime you're going to put an expense towards people on a job, that's going to be the SL side of our SLME methodology and understanding our cost of goods. On the M and E side is materials and equipment. Again, these are the non-people. The materials are pretty straightforward. It's all the materials you buy to actually get the job complete. The equipment's pretty straightforward also unless you own your own. Then it can get a little complex because you bought that skid steer because you thought, oh, if I just buy the skid steer, we use it all the time. We can just bill it, cycle it off, maybe take some off of our taxes or whatever it might be. You really need to talk to your accountant. Sometimes it's advantageous if you're willing to work the system. And by the system, I mean putting that maybe into an LLC. Again, talk to your advisors about that. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. So talk to your advisors about that and maybe parsing that off. Here's the bottom line with your equipment. You need to put a cost code associated with that equipment, a cost code per hour, per mobilization, per day, half day, whatever the metric is for you. You need to have a cost code, especially if you're the one who owns it. And so the cocktail of any expense on a job is usually going to fall within those 4 letters of SLME, SLME. And once you do that, then you understand what you need to start to invoice. Now here's the problem. Up on this line, this represents work that has been completed. And so if we take that line and imagine that this right here is the work that's been completed already on this particular job, not all jobs, but this one job. And then down here is where we have the work that's actually been billed on that job. So here to here is our billed, here to here is our work completed. Now you'll understand right away we have a gap, we have a problem. So if we take our red, this is where the symptom is right here. This is where you start to feel and what accountants will call, let me just put a UB, underbilling. And so we have underbilled the work that has already been complete, which means we've usually spent this money. I know terms can come and go in and out, and we've only billed this amount to be able to get this amount of money back. So if we spent this amount of money and time, or people like your subs and your labor are expecting that money to come to them, or your vendors are expecting that money to come to them, but we've only billed this, we've got a gap that we've got to bill and we've got to close. Now here's the real problem. If that gap has not been closed and you don't understand your terms, and you've got a 60-day term on this gap, you're going to be in a real problem and a real pickle as it relates to your cash. So one of the things, a little side effect of this, I want to talk to you about your terms. And so when you're thinking about your payment terms, there are a couple of things that contractors notoriously underutilize. One of those is what we call auto payments. So auto pay can come in the form of receivables. Auto pay can also come in the form of payables. Now you might look at payables and go, why would I want to auto pay my payables? Don't I want to keep that money for as long as I can? No, not necessarily, because it gives you a false reality if you've got more money in the bank account. Remember, there's a myth that I talk about all the time, that if there's money in the account, then I must be making money. That is not true. It's a myth. And a lot of times that myth is perpetuated because your payables have not gone out. I'll give you two stories in the last 12 months. One was an $80 million contractor and one was about $1.5 million contractor, but both were 6 months behind on their payables. You think they were in a world of hurt after that? And so you could say, well, at least they had the money. No, they didn't. They had to go find and dig and even bring in some forensic accountants to be able to help them to understand what happened is their accounting department was not paying close attention to their payables and making sure they were going out in a timely manner. And so when you auto pay this and put it on digital recurring payment, both on payables and on the receivables, even more on receivables, then instead of 30 and 45-day terms, what you can start looking at is 1 day, 7-day, 10-day terms, be able to turn around, and then you can even also offer some incentives. Hey, we're on 10-day terms, but if you pay within 24 hours, we will offer you a 1% discount or whatever it might be. Now, some of you go, well, I can't absorb that. Well, you work that into your bid and estimate to be able to offer a rebate and a discount for people. So get creative with your terms so that you can increase your cycle time and your cash flow to try to eliminate underbillings, and also be very careful because on this side, you can actually do overbilling, where you've billed for work that is not yet complete. You already have the money, but you haven't spent the money yet. So you assume that you've got an inflated bank account when you still have bills that you've got to pay for this work that's going to be completed. Where is all of this caught? Well, it's in something that accountants call the WIP report. That is a work in progress report, and basically it's broken down into two categories. One is overbilling, and the other is underbilling. Okay, in this formula, overbilling is going to tell us, and the alarm's going to go off, hey, you still have to pay some stuff, so don't go spending all this cash. Underbilling means, hey, you're owed some stuff, and so make sure that you catch up your invoicing with that point. So the WIP report is there to tell us two different things. So ultimately, what is the unbilled by job cost? When we job cost, we understand what the contract value is minus our cost of goods, and the cost of goods is made up of our slime right here, and that equals our gross profit. And so once we understand job costing, the slime right here is where we really start to work out our underbilling and our overbilling. Some of this can be a little bit overwhelming. It's not intended to. That's why I wanted to draw it out. So here's what I want to do to help you. If you click on the link in the description below, I've got a powerful masterclass that I've built so you can understand where WIP billing, job costing all fit within the whole scope of your entire construction business. So I want to teach you how to build a system for your construction business so you can understand how your business can actually run and grow with or without you. You don't have to be the only one there to make sure that this thing keeps going. It is possible. Trust me. We worked with hundreds of contractors just like you to liberate them from chaos to make time for the things that matter most.